On Monday, January 21st, 2023, a violent argument and shouting broke out in a house on Husby Street in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, USA, alarming neighbors and tenants and prompting them to contact the landlord of the house, as this 3-story house is rented out to students and young people. The landlord arrived at the house and began inspecting the house to see what happened. Things were relatively quiet, and everything seemed fine. But when she reached the 3rd floor, most rooms were almost empty. She soon noticed that the door to the shared bathroom on the 3rd floor was strangely locked. The woman knocked on the bathroom door several times but received no response, which prompted her to use the master key to open the bathroom door. She was surprised to find the body of a young man lying on the bathroom floor, drowned in a pool of blood after being stabbed in the neck. The woman was terrified, especially when she could identify the young man who was one of the tenants of the rooms in the house. Walid AlGharibi was a 25-year-old Saudi student at Philadelphia University. The woman immediately called the police, who sent their units to investigate the crime. The Philadelphia police paid special attention to this case when they learned that Walid was the son of a prominent Saudi diplomat, which gave the case global momentum, especially in Saudi Arabia and the United States of America alike. What are the circumstances of the crime that claimed the life of a diligent Saudi student who was about to obtain a postgraduate degree from the College of Accounting and Information Technology at Philadelphia University and had a bright future in his country? Walid AlGharibi was born and raised in Saudi Arabia. He is the 3rd son of his father, the prominent Saudi diplomat Abdullah AlGharibi. When Walid became a young man, he moved with his family to Australia. His father was assigned to work there as a diplomat, so Walid moved with his family there. Walid then completed his intermediate studies before moving with his family again to the United States of America, where he finished his high school studies before enrolling at Philadelphia University in Pennsylvania to study computer science. Walid's father was very concerned about his son's studies at Philadelphia University and his residence in this city, which is known for its widespread crime due to the poor economic conditions. Accordingly, the prominent Saudi diplomat advised his son to try to transfer to another university in one of the safer American cities, but Walid was determined to stay in Philadelphia. He lived in that city with his close friend and one of his cousins, who were studying at a university in the city center. At the same time, Walid's college campus was located in a remote area on the city's outskirts. In 2023, Walid's cousin, who was in the same town as him, graduated from college and moved out of the city entirely, leaving Walid alone in the large apartment they were living in. Walid could not afford the expensive rent of the apartment alone after his roommate left, which prompted him to move from that apartment to the university residence. However, he did not stay there for long, as the university administration quickly asked him to vacate the room he was living in because other students had previously booked it. Still, they were not present during the summer. Walid was forced to leave the house and look for a place to live. He found a home with 9 rooms, each floor with 3 rooms, a bathroom, a living room, and a kitchen, at house number 347 on Hansberry Street. It was a huge house. Almost all the rooms were rented to young men of Walid's age. Walid did not plan to stay long in his new residence, as he was only 2 months away from finishing his university studies, obtaining his degree, and returning to Saudi Arabia. The room Walid rented in that house was cheap, which worried his father, who knew very well that this city area was rife with theft and armed robbery, especially since Walid was wealthy. The young man owned a modern, luxurious car, mobile phone, and laptop. Walid's father and his older brother Haitham used to visit him constantly at his new residence to check on him during the weekends. And every time they tried to convince him to leave that residence and look for a safer place, but Walid saw no point in that because the remaining time was only 2 months, and because he did not want to be preoccupied with the matter of moving and looking for a new residence at a time when he was in dire need of focusing on his studies so that he could graduate from university. In the end, Walid's father gave in to his youngest son's wishes and left him alone. He was counting the days until this period would end and Walid would return to his country. But one day, Walid's father received news via email. The email was sent from the Philadelphia Police Department's Homicide Division. The message indicated that Abdullah. He had to contact a police investigator immediately regarding a matter concerning his son Walid. When Abdullah contacted the police, they informed him of the terrifying news that his young son's body had been found in the bathroom of the shared house where he lived. Walid's father and older brother Haitham moved to Philadelphia to follow up on the investigation and find out exactly what happened to his son Walid. When Abdullah arrived in Philadelphia, the police were still trying to solve the mystery of the crime that Walid was a victim of. However, the initial conclusion was that the main motive behind the crime was robbery. The police reached this conclusion after searching Walid's room, which was located on the second floor of the house. They quickly discovered that the young man had been robbed, as his mobile phone or computer were not found, and some of his expensive clothes and his wallet were also lost. But who committed this crime? Why Walid? Did he have enemies? And why on the third floor, when he used to live on the first floor? How was the perpetrator able to enter and exit the house, which had a main door, whose key was only owned by the residents and the owner of the house? To find out the answer to this question, the investigators interrogated the owner of the house, the woman who found Walid's body, and contacted the police at first. The woman confirmed that it was impossible for the perpetrator to have sneaked into the house and that she was certain that the person who committed this heinous crime was one of the room tenants. Not only that, but the woman pointed the finger of accusation at a specific person, a young African-American woman who lived on the third floor. Her name is Nicole Marie. The landlady explained to investigators that Nicole had rented the room about 2 weeks ago, and since her arrival at the house, Nicole had been showing exaggerated interest in the Saudi young man who appeared to be wealthy. Nicole had told the landlady on more than one occasion that she wanted to get close to Walid, mainly because she was sure he was an extremely wealthy young man, given his luxury car and expensive mobile phone. However, Walid was not welcoming her approach. Therefore, he was always trying to evade Nicole's constant attempts to get close to him. The young man explained to the landlady on more than one occasion that Nicole's behavior was causing him to be disturbed and harassed, as Nicole would usually knock on his door to ask him for help with some work. This would often prevent him from reviewing his lessons. The landlady asked Nicole to stop harassing and bothering Walid and to leave him alone. But it is clear that the young American woman did not want that because she was looking at what Walid had and not at Walid personally. However, the most important thing that the owner of the house mentioned in her conversation with the investigators is that on the day she discovered Walid's body, and when she was wandering around the house looking for the source of the problem, she smelled a strong smell of chemical cleaners emanating from the third floor. When the woman went upstairs, the place was completely quiet, and there was no one present on the entire floor except Nicole, who was at that time gathering her things and cleaning her room in preparation for leaving, as it was her last day in that house. The owner of the house indicated in her conversation with the investigators that Nicole seemed very nervous and in a hurry while cleaning her room and gathering her things, and the place was also excessively tidy and clean. It was clear that the young woman was trying to hide something. Before the owner of the house had a chance to know the truth of the matter, Nicole had already left the house. After Nicole left the house, the owner discovered Walid's body in the bathroom, so the woman immediately concluded that Nicole was involved in some way in what happened to that poor Arab young man who lost his life in a treacherous manner, especially since Nicole had a huge physique, which indicates that she was able to snatch the life of the weak Saudi young man with ease. Investigators immediately picked up on this thread and checked the surveillance cameras outside the house and were soon able to capture Nicole leaving the house just a few minutes before the owner arrived. Nicole was carrying a black bag in her hand. She looked around very carefully before depositing the bag in the trunk of her car and returning back inside the house. In complete silence, investigators concluded that Nicole had rushed to get rid of the murder weapon and the stolen goods that she had collected from Walid's room after she killed him, and put them in the car before anyone could arrive and see the evidence in her possession. Then she returned to the house again to collect the rest of her belongings and leave the place quickly. Investigators also checked the bank records of Walid's bank accounts and soon found banking activity in Walid's account. On January 24, 2023, just one day after the crime, an amount of money was withdrawn using one of Walid's bank cards from an ATM in New Jersey, which increased investigators' suspicions about Nicole, who originally hailed from the nearby state of New Jersey, and her father still resided there. But to confirm these suspicions, they had to unload the surveillance camera footage of the ATM. It was no surprise to them that Nicole's picture appeared while she was withdrawing money using Walid's bank card. This damning evidence enabled the authorities to obtain an arrest warrant for Nicole. She was hiding in her father's house in New Jersey and returned her to Philadelphia in preparation for the trial procedures. Despite the huge amount of evidence that the investigators collected against her, Nicole denied having any connection to the heinous crime. She also denied that she had stolen any of his personal belongings. Of course, the investigators did not believe what Nicole said and referred the entire case to trial after they drew up a scenario of events from their point of view based on the evidence collected from the crime scene in general, where the investigators' conclusion was based on Nicole luring Walid out of her room after she asked him to help her move her bags and belongings to the car. When Walid went up with her to the third floor, Nicole surprised him and stabbed him treacherously in the neck, thus ending his life. After that, Nicole put Walid's body in the bathroom and cleaned the crime scene from traces of blood and put the murder weapon and the stolen items she collected from Walid's room in the black bag before moving it to her car. When the owner of the house arrived at the crime scene, Nicole had already gotten rid of all the evidence and cleaned and arranged the house, but she could not get rid of the signs of anxiety and suspicion that were clearly evident on her face. Nicole's case is still being processed before the American judiciary, but she will most likely be convicted of the first-degree murder charge against her, and Nicole is expected to receive a life sentence without the possibility of parole.